Well, hello there. My name is Teresa Micheletti, and this site is called Take What Rings True. So, the whole idea is I share spiritual thoughts, and if it makes sense to you, you keep that idea. If it doesn't make sense to you, let it go. You don't have to believe anything I say. Today, I'm going to talk about reincarnation. I, last Sunday, went to a spiritualist church and I was the guest speaker and I talked about reincarnation. I realized I hadn't done that in this group yet. So, reincarnation. Well, I did not believe in reincarnation. I did not believe in past lives. Even though I was taking classes from Sylvia Brown, who talked about past lives, talked about reincarnation, I didn't believe it until I was taking a hypnosis training from Sylvia, and she assigned us to do a past life regression on someone. Well, I thought, okay, who can I do a past life regression on? And I would believe that they were not making stuff up. So I did it with my mom. So I relaxed her, guided her to a past life as significant. I think the words I used were go to a significant past life. So she went to a life where she was in Charlotte and she was reading to some children. So I asked her if they were her children, and she said, "No, they're not my children." And I'm thinking, this is not my mom. She doesn't talk like that. Apparently, this lady was not married. So she said that she got married later on and she was going on a train trip and carrying a reticule, those little purses that are like a drawstring. And she was very intense on explaining her outfit, her purse, her worldly things. That's not my mom. When I asked her if Charlotte was in North Carolina, if she was in North Carolina, no, she's not in North Carolina. So it was Charlotte somewhere else. So I thought, well, okay, if mom's making this up, this is like a real attitude change. So we exited that life and I had her go to another one. And she went to a, a big house on a river and it was in China. And I asked her to describe what was around her. The walls were made of yellow silk and she was playing with her daughter and she had jade beads. And she put up her hands like this, like big jade beads. They were yellow jade beads, and she had green jade beads. Anyway, they were playing with the beads. And I tried to get her to move. Said, "Can you go into the next room? Can you tell me?" Because I was sure her feet were bound, but I couldn't get her to say that. And hypnotists are not supposed to lead. You're not supposed to say, "Is this whatever?" So we determined her family's name. Her parents weren't alive, but her grandfather was alive. And from his name and the river they were on, and that location, that year, she was able to validate that that was a little known dynasty in China. It only lasted 60 years. Only royalty were allowed to use yellow silk. Obviously, she was wealthy because she could just hang out with her daughter and play with the beads. So she validated that life. She also validated the life where she was in Charlotte and knew the name, her husband's occupation, the year, etc. So she was able to also validate that. And then the whole reason for doing this for mom was she loves reading about kings and queens in England. And she even got the magazine Majesty, which told about current kings and queens. Anyway, um, she was standing on a hill overlooking a valley, and they were getting ready. The people in the valley were getting ready for a celebration of some kind. Well, her husband had died, and her husband had been some kind of a, I think he was a count or something like that, and somebody from the royal house was going to come visit, not the king, but like a viscount, or I don't know what it was, something else. And so they were getting ready, and children were winding ribbons like on a maypole. So I couldn't get her to go down. She was the observer on the hill, which is fine, but she was able to name her husband's name, the person who was visiting, the royal leader at the time, the year, the location, etc. And she could validate those things later. So, one thing I like about doing past life regressions is if you can get the name and the place and the dates and the jobs, you can go find out about it, which in this time is kind of nice because you can do it online. You can just search for it. But um, in the early days of past lives, you'd have to go to a special place where they studied ancestors and draw records. But now you can do it online easily. So I started believing in past lives because my mom could validate that. And my fellow students in my class, we would trade and do um, sessions for each other. And one session I did with a friend, and she started talking about how dusty everything was. She didn't like it because her sandals were dusty. She was going to her storeroom, and the storeroom had these great big earthen jars, like she went like this, those great big earthen jars. And this was a long time ago. And she kept scrolls in those earthen jars. So I asked her, well, what are the scrolls for? Well, she was a scribe. Well, I don't know if she was a male or female now. I think she was a male. But anyway, she uh, stored her scrolls from being a scribe inside the earthen jars. And I asked why she was writing. Well, she was writing the stories of Jesus. She was a scribe for Jesus. So I said, okay, can you go meet with Jesus? So in the village, there was a bridge, and she met Jesus on the bridge near a tree. And she said she wasn't going to go to the lecture that day, but Jesus was going to give a talk, and a lot of people were coming down the road. They were bringing food. They were bringing fish. Another person would bring bread. So they were bringing things, she said, like a potluck. So, have you ever heard of the loaves and the fishes? I knew that was the story. Obviously, that wouldn't have been the name of that time and place or that incident, that scene in those times. But in my times, I knew it was the loaves and the fishes. So she was describing that, but she wasn't going to go to that talk. But it made total sense to me. No wonder the story of the loaves and the fishes, they were sharing food. Well, of course, if you're going to go hear someone and it was far away from your home, you would bring food to eat. It would be like a picnic, and people brought what they had. So if you have fish, you bring fish. If you have bread, you bring bread. Whatever it is you have fruit, you have carrots. I don't know what they would have had in those days, but those kinds of things would be a potluck. Sounds good to me. So I believed her mainly because who's going to spend half of their regression going, I hate this dust. My shoes are dusty. This room is dusty. Everything is dusty. If you're going to make up a story, you aren't going to be talking about that. So I started to believe in past lives and eventually became a person who went across the North America doing past life regressions for Sylvia. Well, not for Sylvia, for people who listen to Sylvia in lectures, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, and I still do that. So I have a friend who wanted to write a book about her past lives. So we spent 4.5 days doing like 4 or 5 sessions a day and compared what was her life in one thing, she might be a very wealthy person. The next life, she might be poor. The next life, she might be just an average person. And you start seeing these patterns of balance, which is karma. So there's balance in the lifetimes. One lifetime, she died when she was very, very young. And the next life, she had a child who died when they were very, very young. So you have a balance of experience. She had a life where she froze to death. She had a life where she didn't have much food and it was in a desert. She had just a varied amount of lives, but they were showing balance. Sometimes she would be with people she knew in other lifetimes or in this lifetime, and other times she would not. So sometimes you come with your soul group, your kindred spirits, and sometimes you choose not to. You have a balance of experience. One thing I like about past life regressions is it can key in on issues that you're having in this life. So maybe in this life, you have gone to the doctor because you have shoulder pain, and the doctor says there's no reason for shoulder pain. And of course, they would call it psychosomatic. But if you do a past life regression, you may find, oh, a tree limb fell on your shoulder. And you're just bringing back that cell memory, even though there's nothing really wrong with your shoulder, the memory from a past life is still there. And you can let go of that in a regression, which is kind of nice. Maybe you're afraid of water. I've had numerous people over and over and over again who are afraid of water. One lady lived on the beach, next to the beach in Hawaii, and didn't want to go in the water. Well, she had had a lifetime where her husband was on a ship and he would go off to sea and come back, go off to sea and come back. Well, one time he went off to sea and did not come back. And then she had another life where her brother pushed her under the water and she almost drowned. He thought it was funny, and she's like gasping for breath and gargling, getting water out of her mouth. Another life, she physically did drown. So that's 3 times that she had major issues with water. So, of course, she doesn't want to be around water in this lifetime. So, during the regression, I had her look at those things and then realize she doesn't need to keep those memories, those emotions from those memories. If she wants, she can keep the memories, but she can let go of the emotion and doesn't have to have that anymore. So, past life regressions often help with people letting go of stuff from past lives. A lot of times you have an option life. So you have usually, okay, let's back up a little bit. I believe from listening to spirit guides in trance classes that we were created as the experiencing side of God. So we were in the mind of God. We were each unique thoughts in the mind of God. And then we became substance and we started incarnating because God created us to be the experiencers for Him. And when we come into a life, we share our experience with God. So you come into life and you have a difficult life, and then you have a rest life where you're here, but not a whole lot is happening, which is fine. Then there's also option lives. My friend Rita came into this life because one of our friends had committed suicide in a past life, and he didn't want to do that again. So Rita, being a good friend of his, came into the life with him as a support system to help him to make it through this life without committing suicide. So that was an option. She did not have to come into this life. It was not planned that she come in. So it's sort of a restful life for her, and it's just an option of what she chose to do to come into this life. For me, this is an option life because I didn't choose to come into this life originally. It wasn't part of my package of lifetimes, but I came in to help with the Gnostic mission, which, the spiritual mission. So you have rest lives, you have option lives. The other lives, probably everyone listening, chose difficult things to do because you love God, creator, source, whatever you want to call. You love God so much that you chose difficult experiences to share with him. Other people would have waved them away, but you chose difficult things. And when we're on the other side in the Hall of Charts and we're planning with our friends and our acquaintances that you're going to be the mom this time, I'm going to be the child, you're going to be the uncle, and then we'll switch roles the next life. Well, we plan these packages of lifetimes, say 10 at a time, and we sit there and we think, oh, yeah, let's just add that lesson. Oh, that's not a big deal. Who wants to stab me in this life? Because I would like to experience that because I've been a soldier so many times. I would like to know what it feels like. And somebody volunteers to do that, which is why we can't judge someone's soul. We can't judge someone's soul because we don't know the role they're playing for God or creator or source. What we can do is judge the actions. It's not wonderful to stab someone. However, somebody may have signed up to do that. Okay. See you later, Tanya. Anyway, we sign up for difficult lessons. And when we're on the other side, we're in an atmosphere of total love. And so we sign up for more than we can handle. But we can handle it. And a lot of times we can choose to talk to God and say, I've had enough of this lesson. Can you please stop it? And if it's not written in your chart, do not stop this lesson, then that can be negotiated away. If you believe that you're having a difficult lesson and it can be taken away, then ask for it to be softened. That's one reason you can pray. And you don't have to do a big deal to pray to God. You just say, God, could you please, whatever. Just talk to God. God doesn't need formal words, formal speech, formal introduction. Just talk to God. God comes to you each and every day. There's a little cloud that comes over you, a sparkly cloud with colors in it, often rainbow colors, and your guide backs away and your angel backs away because that's private communication. And then God is giving you information. And then we think those wonderful thoughts are ours, but that's okay. So you have these past lives. The best thing I think right now about past lives is if you go to a hypnotist, you can release things that are affecting you in this life. So I talked about the person who's afraid of water. Many people are afraid of water. People are afraid of spiders. People can't get over public speaking. They're having trouble. Well, it may be a past life issue, and you can go to the point of entry for the past life issue and release whatever emotion is holding you back. That's helpful. Another thing in this time is you can bring back your spiritual gifts. So if you knew how to do something in a past life, like I was a crystal healer in a past life, so I can bring that back to the present, which I have, and use that to help people. Some things that you have in a past life, you may not want to bring back. So some skills, I remember one lady was excellent at making girdles, and she did not want to bring back girdle making as a skill, which I can understand. But maybe you were good at using herbs, and you knew how to create tinctures and mixes of herbs to help people. You could bring back that knowledge. Maybe you were a shaman in a past life and you want to bring back those abilities of being able to help people with shamanistic skills. Often, the thing I'm enamored with shamans is the shamans who would use animals, and they would take the spirit of the animal. It's like an eagle, okay? And they would like merge their mind with the eagle and use those attributes to help people. They would merge with a wolf, they would merge with whatever. So their mind would merge psychically with animals to help them. And I always found that fascinating when I'm working with clients who were shamans. So you can bring back skills like remote healing. You can bring out skills like hands on healing. You can bring back skills of working with groups. You can bring back skills of being psychic. You can bring back skills of being more intuitive. Now, one thing many of you are examples. You're examples in this life. And if you know that that's your mission in this life, to be an example of how to get through life, and other people see you getting through life and making it through, that may be your main talent in this life. And if you realize that, it can help others because you're the example of how to get through life. So there are many spiritual gifts that you could bring back. I would like to bring back the ability to use herbs and mix them and see about healing. The ones I have brought back are more intuitive ones. I can channel, I can remotely heal people. I've done hands-on healing since studying for the ministry with Sylvia. But there's many skills you could bring back. So if you would like to explore that, then see a hypnotist. Contact me. I'd be glad to do that. So in meditation or in hypnosis or talking to a psychic or someone who channels, you can find out what your spiritual gifts are that you could bring back. And then you can bring them back. If you go to a hypnotist, they can help you bring them back. If you go to a channel, they might be able to help you bring them back. So just know that we have many past lives. Although I did have a client who had only had one other past life, that was their second life. And I think the only reason they came to a session for past life regression is because their friend was coming and they came with their friend. I don't know that she would have initiated coming by herself because she hadn't had that many life experiences, but that was fine. Some people never incarnate, and that's their chart. That's the thought that God had about they're not going to be so interested in incarnating. They're going to experience just what's on the other side, and they're not going to experience coming into a life. So you have many lifetimes and you have many purposes for those lifetimes. We talked about themes before. You can look that up on YouTube where I talked about themes. So my theme this life is humanitarian and responsibility. So my lessons in this life, my experiences in this life tend to have something to do with responsibility, something to do with being a humanitarian. And then there's the rub. So the rub for me is I am not responsible for everyone and everything. So I have to beware, let other people do stuff. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to be in charge of everything. You don't have to oversee everything. And I have to step back and realize that I need to do that. I need to not be responsible for everyone and everything. And whatever your theme is in this life, you have a major theme and a minor theme. Whatever your theme is, That colors what you do in this life. So if you're a caretaker, then obviously you're going to be focused on taking care of children, of relatives, of people in a nursing home. Maybe you are a nurse, maybe you're a masseuse. In some way, you take care of people. And that's your focus in this life. If you are a, a different theme, maybe rejection, then you experience being rejected and rejecting people. And how does that color your life? Maybe you are a person who's a cause fighter, then causes are very important to you. And your focus is on fighting for causes. It doesn't have to be overt, formal causes, it can be just um, helping people at a nursery school and making sure that they're taken care of and that things are going right for them. And you are upstanding in your beliefs of your cause. So we have many lifetimes, even though we don't believe it. And you can experience them in meditation, hypnosis. You can go to the other side and check out your lifetimes at the viewing area. You can even step into a 360-degree room where you see all around you and you step into the scene of one of your lives. You can also step into the scene of other people's lives. Rahim, a spirit guide, talked about that. He was checking something out and he stepped into someone's life, and it was in the middle of Indians, Native Americans who were moving buffalo. So there's all these buffalo, there's all these people on horses, and he's in the middle of it. So sometimes you want to make sure which scene you're stepping into. But if you wanted to know about history or you wanted to know about a certain location or time, then that would be a fun thing to do. And you can do that in hypnosis also. So you've lived many lives. Some of them have been rest lives, some of them are option lives, and probably this life is a more difficult one because we're getting ready for the ascendance. And the people who've chosen to ascend, chosen to go to the new dimension, those people are stacking up difficult lessons because you're going to let go of karma. You're going to let go of that balance of life, and it's going to be a different experience. So you've stacked up all these lessons. So you get the extra brownie points. You get the extra um, experience to move up a level on the other side as we move up experience levels. So I want to thank you because you are very brave. You are very brave. I want you to think about the things in your house. Do you collect things that are from a certain area? Like maybe you collect Mexican pottery, or maybe you collect cloisonne from China. Maybe you have all Danish furniture. Maybe you just love all things about the Civil War. If you do, then you most likely had a past life that went with those things. So if you have Danish furniture and you've always loved it, and nobody else in your family has anything to do with being Danish or Danish furniture, have never seen those before, it's probably because of a life that you've had. And you might want to explore that. So pay attention. Also, what you like to read, what you like to watch documentaries about. I liked Stonehenge and read all the Stonehenge things. And I like King Arthur's time, all things King Arthur. Well, that's because I had lives in both of those time periods. I had a life in King Arthur's time. I was related to Guinevere. So no wonder I like that time period. Stonehenge, I was in Stonehenge. I was a leader at Stonehenge. So no wonder I like Stonehenge. I even went to Stonehenge in this lifetime and had a wonderful experience. I went to Stonehenge and did a special ceremony. It was near winter solstice. It wasn't winter solstice because then there would have been a whole bunch of people there. I got permission to go there by myself and be there before the crowds came. So it was early morning. And I did my ceremony. And then there are all those standing stones. And at the end of my ceremony, all these ravens came and sat on the stones. And I was marveled. I had never seen that before. Well, come to find out, I was the spiritual leader in that time period. And it was just a resonance. The ravens came because of me being there and that energy. You know, there is no time on the other side, everything is now. So the ravens came because of my experience in my past life. And I didn't realize till later that I had had such a powerful life in Stonehenge. And if you want to know more about it, I can tell you about the portals. I can tell you about other things about Stonehenge. But it was a wonderful experience going there and feeling that energy. So you'd be amazed at some of your past lives. So if you want to explore them, contact me, heavenlyhypnotist@gmail.com. Or you can go through this site, both Facebook and YouTube, and contact me. So I hope you explore your past lives and see what you can see. Pay attention to your environment. What do you read about? What documentaries do you like to see or movies do you like to see? What's the topic that might have something to do with a past life? It's fun to explore. It's also nice to get rid of some of the emotions that you're holding from past lives. So, thank you for visiting, and I will see you next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And I want to thank you for joining me. Bye.